Hi, I'm Rita Savasco with Rooted in Language, and today I want to talk to you about this idea of being an independent learner. I mean, when we think about, I always ask the question, what is your goal? And when you think about what your goal is for your students, most of us have goals that are we want them to become the best reader and writer that they can be. I want that too. And we want them to be able to achieve independent functional abilities with those skills. And most of us also would love it if our kids love it, right? Not just that they're functional in reading and writing, but that they really love reading and writing. And even if we don't have that for ourselves, we always wish it for our students, right? And so, and I agree, I absolutely want that. So the idea is, how do we get to independence? Do we get to independence by forcing a lot of independence? And I think this is a complicated question that has a complicated answer because reading and writing skills are complex. And I like to say complex skills need complex solutions, right? So I want you to think about this idea that in order to be independent, we have to have some things, right? We have to have skills and we have to have motivation and drive, right? And I did a podcast that's referring to a phrase by John Hattie about the skill, the will, and the thrill, right? So I want you to think about that. That first, kids need skills. Skills require explicit instruction, engaged practice. It does require some hand holding to make sure that kids can do it, right? So there had been kind of this, and John Hattie in his meta-analysis on deep learning writes about this study that was done with medical students where they took medical students and they had them work on learning through this kind of explore a story, do it yourself, figure it out kind of learning. And they discovered that it's not that that kind of learning is all bad, but you have to have a certain skill level for it to work. So first year medical students did not do well or learn well under those circumstances. They didn't learn deeply. But third year medical students did do well and did learn well. So the first thing you always have to ask yourself is, does my student have the skills they need to do this thing independently? If the answer is yes, then the independent work can be thrilling, but we will always want to set them up for success. So if you look at what's going on in classrooms across America, teachers aren't just throwing projects at kids. Mostly they're doing a lot of classroom work where they're doing a lot of pre-work and a lot of prep work, and they're gathering materials. And there's a lot of engaged learning, interactive learning that goes on in this very we do it fashion, we do it together fashion. And then once all of that prep work is done for some kids, then saying do this next part independently is perfect. But for some other kids, they need more and they weren't set up for success. And as an educator, we have to figure out where that line is for each and every child, for each and everything we're looking for them to do. I mean, I definitely set up projects for my kids that had a lot of we do it work, we do it, we do it, we do it. You go do this one piece independently, come back, we interact with the material again, okay? Deep learning is engaged learning, and part of engagement is interacting. So there's all kinds of research that's being done on conversational instruction. You don't have conversations by yourself. Conversational instruction is really working with concepts and this interplay between teacher and student, between student to student. There's all this engaged learning that goes on, and that engaged learning really makes a difference. So we do a lot of explicit teaching, partnership work, skill building, conversational instruction, writing in bits and pieces, creating projects. and having pieces of it that are all done together and pieces of it that may be done independently. And if you look at readers and writers, well, let's just deal with writers who do this work professionally. They're still not in a vacuum. They're still, even at this level of intense independence, they still have editors. And they are probably still having pre-readers and kicking ideas around. I mean, that's really what independent work looks like. We want to have these moments of the push. We want support, and then this moment of we're going to go a little bit further. And we always want to be working to a level of success. So we can do that two ways, right? We can buy really boring materials that kids can just fill in the blanks, and that's all they need to do. And trust me, I tried to rely on some stuff like that once in a while, and my kids were capable of doing it, but they couldn't tell you anything they learned about it except the stuff they made fun of because they thought it was stupid. That's all they really remember about that. But whenever we were engaged in learning together and talking about things together and drawing up pictures that kind of illustrated stories and creating plot arcs and writing in bits and pieces about what we were talking about and annotating text and discussing it together, all of that, writing each of us independently and then reading our writing to each other in our some of our free write methods that we use in our supported writing class, that kind of work that's very engaged, that's the stuff that they really remember and feel like they grew from. Even when we do copy work, which looks like a very independent class, how do we do it? We do pre-teaching, so we know all the skills are there and we've completely set kids up for success. And then we have kids do copy work. We work on teaching them how to edit their own work. And then after they edit their own work, we look at it together. We are just moving in and out of what is independent and what is explicit and what is support and what is partnership and what is engaged and interactive. That's the way you get independence.